So I know that later tonight, you guys will be joining me for the Hall of Fame video, and Paul will be joining us as well. But Paul has so graciously joined us to talk about contract extensions. Paul, first of all, thank you for joining me for this edition. How you doing?
Hey, you know what? I'm still sitting in the same chair as I was an hour earlier when we talked about the Hall of Fame episode that I'm really excited to watch.
That's
So,
right. Yeah, so we're obviously having a good time. So we wanted to talk about contract extensions. Obviously, you're a Bills fan. The last 2 days been filled with news. You have 2 days ago on Wednesday, the Buffalo Bills extended Coach McDermott's contract, and then just yesterday, the Buffalo Bills extended Dawkins' contract. So got Paul and I talking. Who is the next Buffalo Bills to be extended? Buffalo Bills player to be extended. So we're going to throw out a player, maybe two, and we're going to talk about why either we think that he will be the next player or maybe why he won't be. So Paul, are you ready for this? I'm going to throw a name out to you, and then we'll go back and forth.
man, I was born ready. Let's go. Let's go.
Perfect. All right. So I did my stream live on Thursday night, as many of you know, and for this whole offseason and for a little while, both Paul and Mario over at Hashtag Sports and myself right here on Billievers Talk have talked about the big three, right? We've talked about Tre'Davious White, Dawkins, Matt Milano. Those are the big three. So Dawkins off the board. Who's the next player to be extended? I'm going Matt Milano. Paul, what do you say?
So I think if you're Brandon Beane, you kind of let Matt Milano ride a little bit.
Okay.
I know that, and I love Matt Milano, right?
Mm-hmm.
I love Matt Milano.
Mm-hmm.
I think in this system, he is the perfect type of linebacker, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's quick. He's very, very football savvy.
Right.
I love Matt Milano. But I don't think Matt Milano has as much value to other teams as he does Buffalo, which is why I think you let him ride to free agency. But I'd love to hear your counterpoint on this.
So I think a lot of it actually depends on either AJ Klein or Voshon Joseph, right?
Okay.
So if they come out, I think we see playing time for both of them this year. And if they come out and do well, then yes, you can easily see Matt Milano go to the free agency waters. However, if Matt Milano still is the same guy he's been over the past few years, if he gets to that 80, 90 tackle range and he's still the disruption, I think you have to extend his contract. Now, when I say that, I realize that means you're going into the season before you extend him. I think there probably will be extensions going into before the season starts between now and then. But I do also think, and I've said this on this channel a few times now, and I'll say this to you, it's nice to be in a situation, and we're going to talk about this in our later episode today when we talk about Bill Polian, to be in a situation where you trust your GM, right? Like, you and I both love Matt Milano, but you and I think are on the same page where if they don't extend Matt Milano, we know that Brandon Beane's thinking long term. So I think that we have that confidence in there. So it's nice to have that. It's something that's really rare if you're a Bills fan in your 30s. You're like, what do you mean?
Well, and I know you mentioned Voshon Joseph and AJ Klein. AJ Klein's skill set's probably the closest to Matt Milano's on the team. But again, you're taking a step back in age, right? But that's not uncommon for Brandon Beane to do. They seem to love to bring in players they're already familiar with. So AJ Klein fits that with his time with, McDermott and Beane in Carolina. So that's really no surprise. But Voshon Joseph and Matt Milano don't have the same the skill set at all. And outside of AJ Klein, I don't see a similar skill set to Matt Milano. So that concerns me a little bit, right? But I look at it this way, and my argument to anybody saying that Matt Milano is the next guy up for a contract is they make fast, undersized linebackers every year. You can find them every year. The same with defensive ends. They make undersized defensive ends every year. You can find them in the draft in any round. And that was kind of the knock against Milano. He's 6 foot, right? He's not your typical weak side linebacker. And somebody like Voshon is an aggressive quarterback eating machine. So he and Milano don't fit really the same mold. Now, if I were concerned about Tremaine Edmonds' progress, I would need to have Matt Milano. I don't think I'm concerned about Tremaine Edmonds' continual progress. So that makes Matt Milano almost replaceable, or at least you could consider replacing him.
Right.
Now, again, I don't think Milano fits the mold for a lot of teams, although Milano is sort of the linebacker that you might see get more popular as the years come up. Teams, when Jacksonville burst onto the scene 3 years ago with a linebacking group that could run the 40 and 4.4, and they were all like 6 foot tall, everybody realized that speed is the way you beat these airing it out offenses, right? And Matt Milano definitely fits that category. He's undersized, quick, he's only 220. So, Milano does fit sort of like the next generation of linebacker. I just don't know if Brandon Beane will be able to make the commitment to Milano now with the salary cap dropping the way that it is. I think you let Milano test the market, because I don't think he's going to get more than $6 million a year. And if I go to him with that number now, I don't want to, I have a feeling like they're going to say, well, that offer's not good enough, we're going to test free agency. And you can go ahead and do that, but I really think anything over $6 million with the huge drop in salary cap that's coming is going to be overpaying for Matt Milano, and I don't think I want to sacrifice my future for that.
Sure. Do you think that now over the last 2 seasons, Matt Milano, he hasn't been injured where he's missed a lot of time, but he's definitely been dinged up, missed a game here and there. Do you think that has something to do with the idea of not, extending his contract? Hey, not only, the best ability is availability. So,
I mean, I look at it this way, right? Matt Milano, over the course of his entire NFL career, has, excluding sacks, right? He's only got 2.5 sacks on his career. So tackles for loss as a career, he's got 21 across 3 seasons. And if I'm looking for a weak side linebacker, I'm not sure if that number is good enough for me.
Yeah.
Right. I don't know if that number is good enough for me.
Yeah. And to your point about picking up a weak side linebacker that's undersized, we did get Matt Milano in the 5th round, so it's not like it's not like he's a dime a dozen, or he's not like he is a dime a dozen. So it's kind of like, and another point that I've made when talking about Matt Milano before, and these are 2 totally different animals, but kind of speaks to your point. Think about Preston Brown. When he was with the Buffalo Bills, middle linebacker, which was 3 years ago, he had over 100 tackles. I think he was 3rd in the league that year. As a Bills fan, I was excited. I was like, oh, we're going to keep him. Nope, went free agency, went to Cincinnati, is an average linebacker when he went to Cincinnati. So maybe you like Coach McDermott, maybe he can find another linebacker for Matt Milano.
All right. You ready for mine?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so everybody talks about Tre'Davious White being the next man up, right?
Sure.
Truth of the matter is, it would be more economical for Buffalo to allow him to play on his option year and then franchise tag him the next 2 years. Because truthfully speaking, Tre'Davious White should be a top 5 paid corner, right? If you franchise tag him, he won't be a top 5 paid corner.
Right.
And players don't love it, but unfortunately, the collective bargaining agreement allows you to still do that. So that's kind of where you are. So I do think that there's going to come a point where we're going to see Josh Allen signed early, although I don't think this is really the time. I think you let Josh play this year out, and then you put in an extension, kind of like what they did with Mahomes, where they left the final years of this deal alone, and it is a true extension, right? So if I had to pick one player for Buffalo that's going to end up with an extension, like stat, real quick, I'm gonna trend away from Tre'Davious White because I think that's easy.
Sure.
I think that's low hanging fruit.
Absolutely, I agree.
And I'm going to have to say, oh man, this is going to be a tough one for me to sell, but I think you're probably looking at John Brown. And I know that doesn't sound like it makes a lot of sense because he just re-signed Stephon Diggs, he just reworked his deal. But you have Cole Beasley for another 3 seasons after this, right? You have John Brown for this season and next season. He'll be 31 entering the final year of his deal. I think it will say a lot when not only did you rework Diggs' deal, which was actually contingent on the trade, but I think you need to make a statement to rewarding the players that earned it. And I'm telling you right now, John Brown is underpaid. Right? Sure. Even with Diggs on this team, John Brown is underpaid. You kind of saw the Bills do it with Boyer, right, where they signed him to an extension early because he earned it. And I know Brown doesn't exactly fit the mold of that young nucleus of players that we like to talk about, but the truth is Harrison Phillips isn't going to get a contract extension. He missed last year, so he's not on the board. You can't re-sign Ed. You can't even talk to Ed Oliver about a contract extension at this point. You really start running thin on the players that you would like to do it with. Maybe Feliciano, but again, he's out. Like, why are you going to talk extension with somebody who's out? You're going to give another player an opportunity. Maybe that's the player you want to extend. So you really do start running out of options here. So I'm going to go with John Brown.
Would you still say John Brown? See, the problem I would have with John Brown, to kind of counterpoint that, is then we just drafted 2 wide receivers. So why would we restructure John Brown, who again is 31 years of age? John Brown plays one of the diva positions where wide receivers don't get hurt as easily as running backs by the 30 number, but that's when you start seeing things decline. That would kind of be my pushback to that.
So I look at John Brown's usage numbers, right? And they're not on par with a typical 29-year-old wide receiver. Now, mind you, he's had a history of he ended up missing time, right? I think it was sickle cell, if memory serves me correct. He ended up missing time in 2017. I think it was with Arizona because of sickle cell. But that hasn't been an issue for years at this point, right? We're far removed from that. And you take a look at his snap count, right? His snap count has been high, but it wasn't – I mean, he saw a massive increase from a career standpoint. John Brown, from a snap count perspective, let's see here. In 2019, he was on the field for 85.6% of snaps. In 2018 with Baltimore, it was 63.8%. His last year in Arizona, it was 79.9%, but he missed 10 games because of that. So that number could be a little inflated. The year before that was only 51%. So again, we're looking at a guy who doesn't really have the usage as a typical 30-year-old or 29-year-old wide receiver would at this point. So that's why I'm okay looking down the road with John Brown, at least buying out or buying into another year. I understand that Gabe Davis and Isaiah Hodgins are exciting players, but don't forget these are late round players, right? And even though we have a lot of faith in Brandon Beane, I don't want that to gauge and be I don't want that to be the leveling agent for how good we think, Gabe Davis and Isaiah Hodgins are, is because Brandon Beane drafted them. And I think that's an easy trap to fall into. You still have to earn it, right? And you know that John Brown has produced with Josh Allen. I think that's the most important piece here, is John Brown has produced with Josh Allen. You are expecting Josh Allen to continue to produce. You want to make sure that John Brown is here as long as Josh Allen. You add on an extra year to John Brown's deal, then you are mirroring Josh Allen's deal. And now we're talking, right? Now you're giving again that bridge. And if you get to the final year of John Brown's deal and you realize that extension was a mistake, you can still walk away and it's understandable, because building an extension, you could put an extension in so that way it automatically triggers another year based on performance. Right? We're not talking about guaranteeing money. If you want to say, listen, John Brown, with Stephon Diggs, if you have 100 receptions and 7 touchdowns, that'll trigger an extra year on your deal. Sign me up for that, right? I dare you to sign me up for that. You want you want to have John Brown have a career year to trigger a new year into his contract?
Right.
I'm down. I am down with that. And that's the creativity I think Brandon Beane has. And again, you don't have a lot of options for extensions right now. With other players. So that's where I am with John Brown. If you want to build in a performance to trigger an extra year onto his deal, absolutely all about it, because that number is just going to be harder to hit with Diggs here.
Yeah. Now, I as I'm looking up some stats about our wide receiving core, the Buffalo Bills currently pay have the 3rd highest salary when it comes to wide receivers in the NFL. So if you're talking about a restructured deal, that means that we probably would have the highest paid wide receiving core in the NFL. So let us know in the comment section what you think about that. Do you think that the Buffalo Bills could have the highest paid wide receiving core? Josh Allen will have plenty of weapons to throw to, so we're happy about that. But yeah, if you have a different name in the comment section, leave it over there. Again, Paul and I just thought this would be a fun discussion to have. Again, after just signing Coach McDermott to a contract extension, just signing Dawkins to a contract extension, we saw 2 big name tight ends just get a contract extension, and Kelsey and Kittle. So,
Yep.
Yep, I'm sure these names are right. Yeah. All right. Yeah.
Just as long as nobody says Jason Kroom. That's
right,
the job.
Right.
Yeah, no, just as long as nobody says Jason Kroom, we're good to go.
That's right. Listen, we have Lee Smith for at least 2 more years.
Oh,
So
God. Stop
give
it.
him an
Stop.
extension.
Oh, God. Please, no. Please. Please, no.
We need one WTF what you're thinking Brandon Beane moment in our life. You know, we're not used to having a clean slate with our GM, so we need one moment saying, you know. So, but anyhow, Paul, any closing remarks?
No, man, go Bills. That's what I got. Go Bills.
Absolutely, guys. Again, if you're not already subscribed to #sports, join #Nation. I'll leave a link in the description below. Make sure you check them out. Mario and Paul do a great job. If you haven't subscribed to Billievers Talk, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell. YouTube notifies you when we put out new content just like this. Season's just around the corner. We can't be more excited. So, guys, we look forward to talking to you all soon. Until we do, go Bills.